Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to really one of the most dynamic chess events of this year. Welcome to the FIDE World Cup in 2023 that's held now in Azerbaijan. So this chess event is a little bit different. It's a bracket system. It's a knockout stage. If you lose, you're getting kicked out of the event. And the concept is actually also amazing because you have to actually play classical time format games. You have to play two classical time format games through 2 days, and then the better out of the two games will simply move up to the next round. If these two games end with a draw, then we'll see additional games, also maybe later the so-called Armageddon game. And in the first round, the top GMs like Fabiano Caruana, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura didn't have to play. They had to play from the second round, and we're actually now already in the second round, and we're starting now this amazing chess tournament with the beautiful game that finished a couple minutes ago. We're following now the beautiful game between Levan Pantsulaia against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus had to play now his first game with the black pieces. Let's see now what happened. In my opinion, really a beautiful chess game for sure. So here Levan Pantsulaia played with the move knight to f3. Magnus' response was knight to f6, and now here after move c4, the English opening, we have now the move b6. This is now the Queen's Indian formation. Basically what we're trying to do is to reach the Queen's Indian defense, but here Levan Pantsulaia is delaying here the move d4. It's not playing this move immediately. Magnus goes now into this double Fianchetto style, very common, very often played also idea here with the black pieces. Bishop to g2, bishop to b7, competing of course on this diagonal, and now after move d4 that Pantsulaia played, Magnus Carlsen simply develops also this other piece. Calcing, rook to e1, preparing maybe knight to c3, e4 ideas, connecting 3 pawns in the center of the board. We have e6 and now bishop to f4. Pantsulaia is simply developing this piece on the most active score. Really an amazing piece here, of course. And now d6. Magnus has now to stop this bishop here from further activity. So we have queen to c2 by Pantsulaia. Magnus Carlsen hits the center immediately, but after d takes c5, b takes c5, what Magnus has gained here after a couple trays of pawns is this mobile pawn structure, 3 connected pawns here in the center of the board. So when it comes to central control with your pawns, black should be slightly better, but this is of course not the optimal setup of your pawns in the center, because obviously the d6 is your main weakness you could crack here if you don't defend, of course, this backward pawn on d6. So knight to c3 played by Pantsulaia. We have queen to e7, rook to d1, simply putting more pressure against this weakness. That's why rook to d8 has to be played. Queen to d2 by white here, also further continue the pressure against the pawn on d6. Now bishop to h6, and now knight to c6 here by Magnus Carlsen. Here Pantsulaia simply trades off the bishop. Perfectly fine. King to g7, b3, connecting here the pawns on the queen side. But now after move knight to f6, now Pantsulaia had immediately a dirty idea in mind. He wanted to play now this very aggressive move, knight to e4. Magnus gets out of this attack. We have a rook to d2, putting more pressure against, again, this pawn on d6. But now Magnus simply breaks and enters here in this position, connects now the pawns here, is creating again a mobile structure with the move d5. What should you do? If you play c takes d5, we take, of course, with e takes d5, and you have to play now e3. If you don't play that, then d4 is coming. You're getting some space problems here in the center of the board. So for instance, you play rook to d7 here. From black's perspective, you continue here with your support over mobile pawns, and now in the next couple of moves, d4, c4 could happen. I'm not sure if white really wants to play this kind of a position. So that's why after move d5 here that Magnus Carlsen played, Pantsulaia simply continued with the move e3. He has to now further control here the d4 square. So we have d takes c4 by Magnus. After b takes c4, both players have now the isolated pawn weakness now in the position. Of course, black has the c5 pawn, white has the c4 pawn as a weakness. But when we watch now these pawns, I think black is even slightly better here, because your light square, or your pawn is on a light square, and in a potential only bishop's endgame here, the problem is that your light square bishop will be always stuck to the defense of your pawn on c4. So if you could just imagine this position with only the bishops on the board, then black should be really slightly better. So knight to a5, hitting the pawn on c4, also threatening, of course, the fork here on b2 and d2 against both of these pieces. We have rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and now comes, I think, the first inaccurate move here by Pantsulaia. He plays now the move knight to e5, and I think this is really crazy when you think about it harder, that such a beautiful, such an active move like this is actually your first inaccuracy, because when you play chess, you're supposed to play actively, you're supposed to occupy the most active square on the board. But actually knight to e5 is the problem, because the knight will become now an object of Magnus Carlsen's attack. Here a better choice was to retreat to d2. It's hard to find retreating moves many times in chess. Of course, after a couple of trades of pieces, okay, nothing spectacular I think here also for black, but this is playable for both sides. As I said, both players have their weaknesses, but in my opinion, this should be a completely drawish position. So Magnus didn't gain any activity out of this position. But knight to e5 is a problem, because after bishop to g2, king takes g2, the knight becomes now an object of the attack. And here after rook to d1, rook takes d1, knight to d1. Okay, you have defended so far the knight, but now Magnus puts more pressure against this knight on d1. So the queen gets a little bit overloaded, and you see now Magnus took over. Magnus took the only very active file now in the continuation of the game. We have knight to f3, Magnus takes here. Pantsulaia also takes, but now this pawn is lost here, and in my opinion, from this point on, the game becomes simply a one-way ticket here in black's favor. So e4, queen to d3, knight to g5, threatening a checkmate on f7, then h7. So that's why Magnus has now to connect everything, and now h4 here by Pantsulaia. We have h6, kicking with the knight, knight to f3, and now queen to c6. Magnus puts now more pressure against this pawn on e4, and now Pantsulaia is trying at least somehow to break and enter, to provoke some weaknesses in front of black's king. Is hoping, of course, maybe in some lines to deliver perpetual checks or something, but Magnus calculated everything in a good way. Queen to e4, h takes g, queen takes g6, and of course black doesn't want to trade off now the queens, because with this extra pawn, then the queen, then this would be, of course, completely winning endgame. So queen to f4, queen to d3, and now Pantsulaia maybe also tried here to win the game. He tried queen to b8, creating here himself a passer on the a file, but this wasn't good. For instance, you have to play queen to h6, and as I said, your only chance here is to deliver some perpetuals. Maybe try queen to g5, and for instance, if the queen moves, maybe, as I said, check, and it's a draw. But of course, still I would say that white is losing here, especially because of this pawn on the c file. But Pantsulaia made now, I think here, really a better position here for black, because he allowed here Magnus Carlsen to play king to g7, and now, okay, you created here passer, but now Magnus found a beautiful stunning tactic in knight to e3 after f takes e3, delivering a check, takes out also the knight on f3, and here we have this passer. We are threatening also some checkmates here in some lines, so you have to be now very careful. a4 was played by Pantsulaia, but now check by Magnus, a new check. You have to stay here, of course, on your side of the board. If you move your king towards your enemy's pawns, as I said, there are even some checkmates that could happen. Now Magnus Carlsen pushed also his pawn. Here Pantsulaia tried to go behind, but now after king to g6, king to h2, new check by Magnus Carlsen, and when he took now the pawn on a4 in this position, Pantsulaia resigns. So amazing game. I think this shows how accurate, how really brutal in chess you have to be. For instance, a very active move cost you almost the game here against Magnus Carlsen. Magnus punishes this kind of ideas. I'm not saying this is completely winning, but it's something really strange that this game is going like this, that you lose against the best chess player in history just because only one tiny little inaccuracy here. Really as I said, Magnus is punishing these positions for sure. So okay, Magnus won now his first game. Tomorrow he's again playing against Pantsulaia, but with the white pieces. I think in this round Magnus Carlsen will get through for sure. We'll see what will happen in the continuation of the tournament. And the most amazing part about this bracket system is that Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen are at the bottom and of the top of the bracket, so they can only meet in the super final, in the potential super finals. So I would love to see maybe a finals between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru. It would be, I think, also an epic closure of this amazing chess tournament. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the English opening for sure. If you want to see more commented chess games here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our commented chess games, also our commented chess games played by computer series. Here are some links of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.